All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Geopolitical Trends. Very excited to be with you as always. Got an interesting topic. I've been following on it, and I did tell you a few months ago I am going to be following on this particular topic over the Philippines and China tension. Uh, there is a lot to cover into this, especially what I just found out. A lot of white paper that I had to read quickly last night, so I got an idea of really where things are headed. But again, I am not surprised. So this is why I decided to go ahead and do this live stream analysis for you. And but before I'll delve deep into this, let me say hi to everybody, like I always do. Let me see who's here. James, thank you very much for being here. You wrote Philippines proposed SOP, China agreed and followed. Then the Philippines cry foul. Yeah, I'm gonna be tackling some of that. Taiwan still, good to see you. Willie Holman, Havoc Buster, good to see you. Marcian Dorcier, Truth Seeker, Koi Choi Hoi, Amanda Jane. You wrote, I shared the link this video at Twitter. Thank you so much for doing that. Truly appreciate you, Amanda. And John Smith from New Zealand, Chanel, as always, Nabesh, good to see you. And Alcita Lokin, good to see you as well. Babka, Francis Tango, Kerr Siddiqui, and Abby Ongoy. I hope I pronounced it correctly. So, all right, let's get into the topic here. What are we going to be talking about today? Well, of course, you heard what happened a few days ago. That again, tensions flared up between I won't call them the West is saying tensions. They use that. Yes, China did fire water cannon on the Aussie Filipino boats, but there is also a background to the whole story, and this is why I am here to share with you those details and provide you my own analysis now. Now, the only thing we need to think about, because you can't estimate or underplay something like this. We might say, oh yeah, China and Philippines will work it out. Yeah, they could. The issue is not about that. The issue is who's fomenting this behind the scenes. And this is again what I told you last time. I am looking over the horizon, and I don't like what I'm seeing coming. So, and this is why I'm gonna just lay out the argument for you, provide the analysis. Of course, you reach your own conclusions, and I welcome your feedback and inputs as well. So we're gonna ask key questions into all this because it's important. The first question is: China and the Philippines on a collision course? Now, as I said, we can underestimate something like that. The possibility is there, but it ain't gonna be the Philippine itself, meaning that the Philippine will be pushed by a third party. You all know what I mean. You're smart enough. Second question: how is this linked to Squad? Because this is again, when I read the white paper yesterday, it made perfect sense to me, and I'm gonna share that knowledge with you. Then what about the Quad? Don't confuse the two. There is a Squad and there is a Quad. Then the question after that that I ask as one who studied international security, that's part of where my PhD was on, focused on international security, is the security landscape in South China Sea changing? And you will understand when I provide you my own analysis. And the last question is the timing. Why now? Why now? So this is what's important for us to pay close attention to. And I am going to get into all this. I'm not going to do headlines today. I do have one announcement for you. I am in process of coordinating with Professor Yang Lian. She's a professor of economics, very, very well-renowned individual, academic. I'm aware of her background, academically speaking, and her concentration in academia regarding finance, trade, and economics. So, and I am in talks with her right now to set up some time. And if that works out, I'll let you guys know, and I look forward to having a conversation with her here on the channel. So, all right, let's get into the where do we start with this? Well, first of all, let me start with differentiating between quad and squad. Then it will make sense to you. Quad, you all know quad. Who's in quads, by the way? Can you guys type in the countries that are in quads? And again, the idea is just to engage you, be part of the conversation, no more, no less. Who are the countries that are in quad? Tag Duan, she's a great guest. Indeed, she is, as far as Professor Liang. Okay, India, Japan, Australia, and the US. You're absolutely correct. Now, we're going to talk about squad. Who's in squad? Is the US, Australia, Japan, and Philippines. And the reason I'm starting this way, I want you to keep this in the back of your mind as I move forward into the conversation here. But here is what is the triggering aspect of all this. And again, when you read from a Western media or Western publications versus the East, you'll see the difference. I'm going to quote short paragraph for you, and just listen carefully. It says, and I quote, and by the way, I found this article in Manila Time. I had to go dig into where the recording that was released came from. Well, it was released by the Chinese, of course, but the Manila Time, and the author of this article, which I'm reacting to, his name is Franco Jose Barona. So, and again, we're not judging here. I'll let you reach your own conclusion. The article started with this, and I quote, last weekend, clashes between Chinese and Philippines vessels in South China Sea sent troubling signal that their standoff is worsening to a point where lives could be lost, potentially dragging the world's two most powerful militaries in open conflicts. End of quote. What is the manipulation in this? There's the keyword there. Once again, last weekend, clashes between Chinese and Philippines vessels in the South China Sea sent troubling signals that their standoff is worsening to a point where lives could be lost, potentially dragging the world's two most powerful militaries into open conflict. End of quote. Let me see what dragging, that's one. That is correct. I'm looking also for another keyword. Another keyword there, which is nothing but a manipulation. And once you know why, it will make perfect sense to you. So, and I know it takes a while for this to show up here, but you're absolutely correct, Alice. Dragging is also, troubling is another keyword, And here is the keyword I want. You got it, David Richard. You got it. The world's two most powerful militaries. All of a sudden, decategorizing and classifying Philippines as being a powerful naval military, which you and I know the truth. Philippines and any other country for that matter, except you're thinking about Russia, maybe US to a degree, but even the US won't stand a chance against China. And once again, I wanted to start with that so you understand where the narrative is headed. The world two most powerful militaries. What powerful are we talking about? China, Philippines is no match to China. So, okay, but we're gonna move away from this, and I am gonna get into, because I'm gonna share. By the way, I'm gonna post the link for you in the description of the entire transcript that the Chinese released. You can read it for yourself, but I am going to share with you some of it here. So now, the Philippines already saying there is no way for us to confirm that this transcript belonged to Carlos. Carlos happens to be the head of the naval in Philippines. Here is what it says. Armed Forces of the Philippines, AFP spokesperson Colonel Francis Margaret Padilla said Carlos' leave, he's on leave, had nothing to do with the new model that the Chinese embassy in Manila said he agreed to with the approval of the ranking Filipino officials. And here is what it says in the recording that the Chinese released, which, by the way, was recorded on January 3rd, 2024, when the agreement was made between China and Philippines. So, well, it becomes to me now, who's lying now? Somebody's not holding the end of the bargain. And I'm going to just share some snippets of it and move on with the analysis. Now, here is what Carlos said. Carlos told the Chinese diplomat that his bosses, meaning Carlos's bosses, concurred with the proposal, referring to the new model that China submitted to the Philippines government. In other words, when China proposed to Philippines, here is how we're going to move forward with new approach to resolve this dispute over this water and so forth. Carlos said, I submitted this to the bosses in Philippines, and they, according to the proposal here, that they concur to it. Carlos continues saying, this is part of the transcript, guys, here. It says, and I can confirm that. And this is exactly what Carlos said to the Chinese official. Of course, the conversation was recorded. And by the way, the recording thing happens in every conversation, official. When a president talks to a president, certain conversation will have to be archived, just for the record. And here is again the West Command for Philippines. The West Command chief also said the proposal has been approved by the Defense Secretary of the Philippines. His name is Gilberto Teodoro, and the National Security Advisor Eduardo Año, and the AFP Chief of Staff General Romero Browner. Meaning that someone in the chain of command agreed to it, in other words, approved it. And to those in the West who say, oh, this is nothing but a lie because the president will have to approve. The president in Philippines has no power whatsoever. It's the military that controls the process. You and I know this. It's not new. And here is what Carlos said, in quote, that is correct. I can confirm that also, said Carlos when asked if his superior gave their go signal to implement the proposal. And what is it? What is this new model? The new model that's being referred to in the conversation was proposed by China, designed to peacefully manage the situation in Ayungin, which is called the Second Thomas, based on what I researched, where Chinese ships, it says, have harassed and intimidated Filipino vessels. Well, let's get, first of all, to the first reason to why things are happening. Now, the Chinese officials said that the new model has nothing to do with the sovereignty, but was for peace and stability. First of all, let us go to the basics of what 1+1 model is regarding the Philippines and China arrangements. The 1+1 model, just briefly here for you to have a background and understand, proposed what? It proposed that Philippines will send only one Philippine Coast Guard vessel and one supply ship during the resupply missions to Philippine troops stationed at the Sierra Madre in Ayungin. So, one ship, right? And it will be supplies. In other words, food, water, things of that nature. So what happened with this? The Chinese came across that the Filipinos were shipping construction material, which wasn't a part of the deal. That's what I found out. And what happened on the Chinese part? The Chinese will do the same as they said to the Philippines. The Chinese will only dispatch one China Coast Guard vessel and one China maritime militia ship to the area. So 1 for 1. That's the whole idea. Okay, what was also in the process, and let me share a picture here for you to see, because this is what's at the heart of the issue here, to understand what is this all about. The idea also is that it was also proposed that the Philippines, and Philippines agree to all this, that Philippines will notify China 2 days in advance when a resupply mission will be conducted. And what is that supply? Food and essential supplies will be transported. There would be constant communication between the two sides. Okay? However, fast forward to, remember, I'm talking about the recording that took place in January. Fast forward to February 2nd, 2024. What happened? And what happened? What happened on February 2nd? What was happening in China? Let me just test your knowledge here. It's a big event. What was happening in China in February? Hello, Farhad Razavi. Good to see you. What was happening in China? It's a big event. Big deal. Let me see. Oh, Muslim revert. Chinese New Year. You guys got it. And it was exactly on the eve of that Chinese New Year, the Philippine resupply mission to BRP, Sierra Madres in Ayonjin, was conducted without any incidents. That's what the embassy said. Okay? And the Chinese officials said that even Padilla, the spokesperson for the Philippines military, posted on social media. There is a record for it. It says, and I quote, he posted that the Philippines executed a flawless rotation and resupply operation. But what is the problem with this? Is that the Philippines never notified China as it was agreed upon. And this is why where this now, the Filipinos trying to say, oh, this recording is a fake, is misinformation. That's what it said. And they don't even know now. They said, well, Carlos is on leave. We can't interrupt that. That's nonsense. If this is a matter of national security, you bring the guy's ass back into the office if the president has the power. But it tells you right there who has the power. Because they said, and I quote, let's leave it at that. He applied for personal reasons. Let's respect his decision to file for leave. This is what Carlos did. Comes now the Department of the Foreign Affairs in Philippines. And it said, and I quote, no cabinet level official of the Marcos administration agreed to any Chinese proposal pertaining to the second Thomas Shoal. And that one, by the way, guys, I need to show you a map for this one here. So we know at least where everything is. And I'm just going to share it quickly here with you. And the map is not very, very, very clear here, but I have some other pictures. I'll share them with you. All right, here is the picture here. It's not very, very clear. And if you notice the on the location for where this issue is, as far as the what the Philippines foreign ministry said. I said there is no agreement about the second Thomas Shoal in the West Philippine Sea. That's the west part. That's what it is. And here is the quote. When I know this for fact, Marcos of Philippines has no power. But the foreign ministry is saying only the president of the Republic of the Philippines can approve or authorize agreements entered into by the Philippines government on matters pertaining to the West Philippine Sea and South China Sea. End of quote. Now, what you have is that you have now the defense minister and the national security advisor who were aware of this now coming forward and denying the existence of any informal agreement regarding the Ayungin Shaw. And this is where, to me, a part of where this problem is. And again, I will provide you the entire link to the transcript of the recording, and you decide for yourself. So let me get off this one here and put another map here, because we need to see other aspects of this that will make more sense. Philippines. Okay, let me show this map here. This is the map of Philippines, and I will share also the map of China, because this way we'll present both sides of the arguments just for you to see. Let me close this one. Okay, this is the Philippines. And we're talking about the east side here, where the issues are when it comes down to Philippines. Regarding the map of China, which will be on its, I believe, eastern side. All right, let me stop this one and share the China map. Then I'll get into my own analysis about all this stuff here. I just need you to see geographically where everything is. This is pertaining to China. And if you look at on the east side here, this is what we're talking about, the South China Sea area and so forth. South China Sea right there. On the side, on the east of the Hainan Island, Hong Kong, Macau, and so forth. So Taiwan and all that. It's all there. Okay. I think I have one more map here. Yeah, this one, it's important to understand also, because I'm going to be talking about it. I'd rather just put it up for you right now, but I'll share it with you. So let me move into talking about the Quad and the Squad, because this is all about that. That's what's at the heart of it, guys. It has to do with the Squad, not the Quad, the Squad. You have the US, Australia, Japan, and now the Philippines. What you're looking at there, the picture, and I give credit to Kyudo. Kyudo is the one who got the picture here. So you're looking at the defense chiefs from the 4 Squad countries, that Lloyd Austin, Richard Marles of Australia, Japan's Minoru Kihara, and the Philippines, Gilberto Teodoro. Okay. Now, what's important about this? And by the way, I read another article from the Nikkei Asia written by Ken Moriyasu. So very, very, to me, it's kind of, yes, there are some good points there. We ought to hear from both sides and we'll reach our own conclusion. So now, what's important about this? The important thing about it is to highlight the usefulness of Squad and the useless application of Quad, if I may use the term. And you will know why. So if we are to look at the emerging group now between US, Japan, Australia, and the Philippines, why is this now? Because this is now what has become at the heart of the US policy in the Pacific. Okay? Now you need to understand why Philippines had to be pulled into this, but pushed over the bridge, over the cliff, regarding the islands in the South China Sea. All this is by a design. And the design that happened between these two is that the Secretary of Defense, Lloyd Austin, okay, just held a meeting about a week ago in Hawaii. Of course, I didn't see the information right here in the US. Why was it kept under the wrap? I don't know. But anyway, the meeting took place in Hawaii, okay, with the three other defense ministers of Australia, Japan, and Philippines, okay? And the purpose of it was to set the agenda and set the course for an ambitious path. Yeah, ambitious, that is. And what does the statement say? It says that this ambition is aimed at peace and stability, and of course, deterrence in the Asia Pacific. Well, if you are to think which is which, is it for peace or is it for deterrence? It can be for both. Let alone the add instability. And this is where the name came up in the Pentagon by naming this the Squad. Okay, this is what's important for you to understand. Now you see why the four countries, and I did talk about this about 3 weeks ago when I talked to you about those four countries will be conducting naval drills. It was in April. That is the reason for why. Even the Philippines took part of it, but went as far as about 19 nautical miles away from its waters to conduct the exercises. Now we have the idea of why the Quad all of a sudden losing its purpose. And who's in Quad, as we mentioned earlier? And you guys already answered this one. US, Japan, Australia, and India. Who's going to be holding the end of the stick in this Quad? Can you guys tell me which country, in your opinion, you believe will be holding the end of the stick if things go south? And it will go south. And I will tell you why. Now, which country, in your opinion, will be holding the end of the stick? Another word being used. Oh, Bob Cog, you got it. It is India. And I'm going to tell you why, for you to understand all this. And by the way, this one here was written, the insights from this guy. Now you might ask, well, who's this guy? This guy's name is Ashley Tellis. Okay, he works for the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace. Yeah, just think about it. Now, I have to agree with him. It doesn't matter. When it's right, you give credit where credit is due. I have to agree with him on one aspect. And that aspect is that the Quad is kind of moving into a slippage here. In other words, is losing interest. You all remember the hypes of Quad back then and so forth. Now it's losing all that. And why is this? It's because India was hoping to get something out of it, especially India. So why? It's because when we think about the whole idea of Quad was nothing but about to counterbalance for China. But Quad ends up being nothing but a useless tool. Because here is the thing. Here is the really to think about it. In case, even though I am starting to feel uncomfortable about what I'm seeing coming over the horizon regarding Asia, and this event that's taking place is the hint that I'm starting to see, the writing on the wall, as we say. But think about it this way. In case of a militarized conflict with China, which you and I know, it won't bode well for all parties. So, but just in case we go with the arguments, who are you going to be thinking about the key alliances that will play a major role? It will be AUKUS and it will be Squad. Then you ask, what about the Quad? The Quad will be useless except for one thing, that you're going to use India. Okay, in this case, India will be used to sort of keep an eye on the Indian Ocean and the Malacca Strait. That will be the only reason why India was accepted into Quad. Another word, you're going to have to sacrifice India for that. Now, this is not pertaining just to South China Sea. This is also in case of the Taiwan Strait. And this is what I'm saying. That's where India is going to play that role of keeping an eye. This is exactly what was argued by Lisa Curtis. I remember reading that. She's the director of the Indo-Pacific Security Program at the Center for New American Security. India will play that role, keeping an eye on Malacca Strait and keeping an eye on the Indian Ocean. But can India afford it? That is where the challenge is. And I don't see that happening. Then comes another guy. This one here. This guy's name is Dhruva Jansakar. He's part of the new, what do you call it? The director of the Observer Research Foundation in America. Arguing that, and I see the logic in his argument, that the Squad will play, it will be involved more so than the Quad. It's because to them, India will be just used for some whatever. What matters is going to be Australia and Japan. And this is, again, to put the emphasis on why the importance will be on a Squad but not the Quad. So when the Chinese fired the water cannons on the Philippine supply ship, they right away, the idea, and by the way, the reason why China fired that, again, to prevent the delivery of the construction material, because it wasn't a part of the deal between Philippines and China. So who's playing? Who's cheating here? So, and for them to be, them meaning Philippines, to be saying, "Oh, this is misinformation," as far as the transcript, I don't buy that. I read it and I checked on it. So, and my argument, again, my argument and concern is far bigger than this regarding the second Thomas Shaw. This is where it is, the idea. It will be very, very, very problematic. It's because when I mentioned about what was on the horizon, this is what I'm seeing is coming. And the US is going to be, for a reason, ratcheting up tensions over there because the Ukraine front is coming to a close sooner or later. You start now hearing about the attempt assassination on Zelensky. Okay? Well, guess what? It was from within, even though they're blaming the Russians for it. Russia has nothing to do with it. As a matter of fact, I'm going to tell you that it wasn't even from within Ukraine. Yes, the individuals, but who was behind orchestrating this is us. That's usually how we do it. That's how you liquidate someone who ran his usefulness for the conflict. Zelensky's time is coming to an end, which means what? You have to keep the ongoing conflicts moving forward. Where is the best option? Asia. The best and the weakest link? Philippines. And India, for that matter, on the other side. But in this case, you push Philippines over the cliff. It's because Philippines is under that impression that, oh, the US is going to come to its support. Yes, there is an agreement that was signed back in the 50s between the two countries, but really, really, just think about it. Take a step back and think. Do you think the US will come forward and go to the front line? Do you also think that Wouldn't it be smart of the Philippines to learn from Ukraine? So this is where I see things moving, and it gives me great concern. I am very concerned as to where this is going to lead to. I even now, as I told you, I'll share with you the map about Australia, because you need to understand this part also. Why is it important all of a sudden in the Squad? The reason it is important in the Squad, because the I'm going to raise it up a little bit for you to see. Adelaide, that's where the manufacturing of the nuclear subs, if they ever happen, it's going to be. Of course, some will have to be deployed to Perth on the left side, on the other side, and some is going to have to go. I'm assuming it's going to go onto the east side as well, to Brisbane or Canberra. I'm not sure yet. All I know for now is that Adelaide is where the construction is going to be, but this Perth is going to play a role into this. Of course, they are not going to disclose the location of where the sub's going to be if they ever get delivered. So, but this whole idea about the South China Sea, we have to think in terms of what will it all means moving forward. And I don't think so. This is where you think about the Philippines miscalculating, that the US will say the same thing we did to India prior to having them in Quad, So because what happened back then, we used to say, well, President Biden was supposed to visit India in January, right? Oh, I said, I'm sorry, I can't make it because of my schedule. So India also explored the Quad summit before its elections that started in April 19 of this year, of course. So, and again, you all remember that Biden thwarted the visit or the conversation regarding that because of the Japanese Prime Minister's visit from Kishida to the US. So the kind of like, going to India for what? And that gives you an idea right there about the importance of which block is important, the Squad or the Quad. And that's why I said India is going to end. India is already holding the end of the stick on that one. On the Squad, it will be Philippines that's going to be holding the end of the stick. And Philippines, the president of Philippines is useless, incompetent. He can't make this kind of decisions. And that's exactly why the Chinese recorded the conversation with Carlos. Carlos is the head of the Navy in Philippines. So, and again, I'm going to release all this for you. So, and once again, we put this within the security architecture in Asia, of course, and of course the geopolitical landscape on a global level. And once again, we ask the question, the timing of it. Why is now? The answer is because the Ukraine conflict is winding down. Usually you start something like this a year or two before. I'm not saying the Ukraine conflict is going to end tomorrow. No. But it's coming. So the US is preparing for the next front where the conflict is going to be. And Philippines, for whatever reason, and we all know what the reason is for Marcos, because it's not Filipino people. I got a word that there were demonstrations inside Philippines. I got a word that Filipino people aren't happy with what Marcos is doing, dragging their country into some confrontation with China. And that's why that article started with the two powerful militaries. Come on. Let's not inflate the ego of the Filipino military. But that's how you serve. Okay? That's how you serve and sort of give a good stroke for the ego of a country. We do the same for India. All we do is sometimes you just say outlandish stuff about India. They like to hear it. Same thing for Philippines. But the Filipino people, and same in India, people in India do not buy that kind of arguments. And this is part of where this problem is. And I do not see, I don't pulling my geopolitical hat on, I do not see good things coming. Usually I'm a positive guy, but for stuff like this, you can't get emotional and just say what sort of the audience wants to. No. And you all know, guys, I don't do that. I don't do that because I can't. It's not the right thing to do. If I can't say it the way it is, then I won't say it. And this is why you have to think in terms of, especially for my viewers in that part of the world, you have to think about what lies ahead. You have to think about it within the context of Singapore. You have to think about it within the context of Indonesia and Malaysia. So all this is important. So, and I am sure, because again, that's the history of my country. You know, it's a sad one. You know, we always put whatever country we want in front, and we stay behind. I said, we're behind you. Look, this is what I'm saying. It behooves Philippine government, that is, to learn from the lessons of Ukraine. And the same to those voices inside Taiwan that just rattling for no reason. If they ever think that the US is going to fight on their behalf, they are mistaken. It's the truth. There's nothing else can be said about this one here. So, as to Australia and Japan, well, Australia first is gone. We all know this. Even Aussies themselves, unlike, what the heck with this government? All the governments in that part of the world, when I say all, I'm referring to Australia, Philippines, Japan, South Korea. Those I'm referring to. They are incompetent. They can't take stand by saying this is not going to bode well for us from a security perspective, because it will create more issues for us, not only from a security, but from an economic perspective as well. I mean, you look at now that recent trip, which I covered here in this channel, of presidency to Serbia and Hungary. France is, it was part of it. But we all know the deal that were made in Serbia and Hungary versus the deal that was made in France, if ever. So, and now you have, what's her name? The flip-floppers from Italy. She's going to China next month. And I'm going to cover that for you. So, and this is where the problem that I see from a geopolitical aspect of it. We prepare to foment the tensions in a next front. And that's usually what I want you to get out of this, is how you start to see ahead of time where the next front of conflict is going to be. And to me, it's becoming clear. Yeah, you're right, Cam. 35, Maloney, Georgia Maloney. She's going to China. Even she had the audacity. This is what I found very hilarious. She was the one to drop from BRI, and yet it's going to China to ask the Chinese for EV markets. What a hypocrisy that is. I just don't get it. I don't get it. So back to Philippines. And again, you need to start to understand where the role of those emerging alliances, so-called, those are useless anyway. That was just for the context of it. Like I always say to you guys, in international relations, context matters. The fact that AUKUS has been established, Squad has been established, Quad has been established, what are they going to do? Do they have a chance to stand against the Chinese military? They just say it straightforward. Even the US itself, one-on-one against China. And I just read a report, by the way, how far China went as far as development of its naval assets. And I intend to do a special video for you with a guest, someone who knows a great deal about this. The facts are on the table. The reality is right there for everybody to see. And yet I don't quite get it. First of all, why Philippines will break its agreement with China? It was no agreement on transporting construction material over there. That was the agreement the Philippines reached with China. And this is why I never trusted Marcos after he returned from his first trip to China after he became president. I'll admit it, I was having hopes for the guy that's gonna, move Philippines into the right direction, economically speaking. I missed this one. I missed it. I misread it. But of course, it was around the same time when I found out where the assets of the family are. And I realized, okay, maybe I should have hold on my conclusion till I. But anyway, it's done, and I admit to it. It's my mistake or my misinterpretation, that is. But from that point forward, won't trust, didn't trust, and will not trust Marcos Jr. So probably we'll see what the next election is going to bring. So, and despite what they're saying, even I read something about the economy now. They're saying, oh, despite the tensions, the economy of the Philippines is doing well. No, it's not. It's not. This is where they're guiding the masses. I had a I don't know. I forgot to put this in. And this is, by the way, why Philippines is beefing up now its defenses. Well, it's not the Philippines. We are telling the Philippines to go ahead and do that. And to the point that now Philippines wants the Chinese diplomats expelled. And to me, this is not a Philippines talking. This is Philippines given the script. So that's, to me, the idea of where this is all about. And if you think about the idea of, if we think about it from an economic perspective, we're going to be saying, no, this is different. This is completely different. The technology, the economic aspects of it is, I don't know. They're just misleading the Filipino people. And Filipino people deserve something better. I'm going to share a screen with you. This is from Richard Turin. You all remember Richard, guys, right? I'm going to share a screen with you that I follow Richard, and he and I will communicate usually through private emails and so forth. And here is the screen that I wanted to share with you. You might not see it clearly here, guys, but I'm going to read it to you. What you see is the GDP per capita across Southeast Asia. Laos, that's GDP per capita. Laos, $2,000. Vietnam, $5,000. Cambodia, $3,000. Thailand, $8,000. Singapore, $88,000. Malaysia, $13,000. Brunei, $35,000. Cambodia, $3,000. Philippines, $4,000. Indonesia, 5,000. Timor, 1,000. So that just gives you an idea where things are. So for the Philippines to be saying, oh, the economy is doing well, no, it's not. Then why would you allow yourself to be sucked into a conflict with your neighbor, let alone your neighbor is well armed and it dwarf you in any aspect you might consider? And that's why I'm saying what I'm saying, guys. I am seeing what lies ahead on the horizon, and I want you to be aware of it ahead of time. So, all right, guys, that's all I have to share with you. I have to go work on some other stuff, and I'm going to answer a question or two from you. Once again, I will be preparing once I get a confirmation from my guest. Let me get the Dr. or Professor, Dr. Yan Liang or Professor Yan Liang, she's professor of economics. Once I get the confirmation, I will guys let you know, and I look forward to the conversation. I already have an idea about the questions I'm going to be asking regarding the global economy, with China at the heart of it, because it is the reality. But I look forward to someone from, even though she teaches here in the US, originally from China, I believe, and it's nice to have a different perspective. So I look forward to that one. All right, let me take a look at a question. And by the way, as always, I thank you. I thank all of you, to those who buys me coffee, support the channel, the content. I greatly appreciate it. One of you mentioned that they don't use electronics. They want my address to send down. You all know I can't put my address for the rest of the world to know here. So, but I appreciate it. If you can do it electronically, that's fine. I appreciate the gesture anyway. So this is the link for PayPal for those who wants to use PayPal, and this is the link to buy me coffee through this. All right, guys, let me take a look at a question or two from you here, and we'll just go from there. All right, let me scroll all the way up. Well, I don't need to go all the way up. I scroll down here and see if you got any questions. Muslim revert. I don't know what you're referring to this. Dr. O is above TS. I don't know what you're referring to here. So, Matt. Oh, good to see you, Matt. Dr. O, is there possibility of inviting Dr. Jill Stein, especially with you as domestic? Yeah, if she will be willing to come in, I'll be happy to do it. So we might do it on the other location, because you all know. No. Yeah, I'd be happy to. There are sometimes you guys recommend individuals for me, but I can't find the direct contact. Like, for example, so many of you have been asking me to reach out to Pape Escobar. We love to have the guy here. I've been looking everywhere for his direct. I went to his YouTube channel thinking it will be some way through to get in through. I just couldn't. I couldn't send him a message on X. So if you guys know or have access to him, let him know. I would love to have, especially, I'm very familiar with his background, especially when he used to spend time in Afghanistan. I was very familiar with his work back then, so I kind of know of him from way back. So we'd love to have a conversation with him about that. So and same with this. I will find out if Jill, Dr. Stein, rather, has a direct, and then I will reach out to her and bring her in. Thank you, Matt, for suggesting that. I will do that. Let me see another. Hong Guang, good to see you, by the way. Please reach out to George Galloway. I did reach out to George Galloway. I did reach out to Ben Norton, and I did reach out to Jackson Hinckley. All three. And there is a record there that I sent them an email. Haven't heard back. So, and again, I usually don't chase after people if they are busy, if they don't respond, because sometimes I kind of looked at it a little bit differently. To me, the proper way of doing it, if you can come on a show, the proper thing to do is send an email back, say, I'm sorry, I can't do it. What's his name? Mr. Freeman. He's the former undersecretary of defense. I sent him an email. He sent me back right away and said, I'm sorry, I'm too busy. My schedule is full at now. Maybe we'll do it later. That was fine with me. But when people just completely ignore that, that's, to me, is kind of not a professional to do so. But again, I don't take it personally. They are they're busy. But I did reach out to them, and of course, we love to have all of them. We love to have them on a show here. So, Rafael, thank you so much for your super sticker. Truly appreciate you. Melita, do you truly understand what the U.S. is doing? As a former Marine who used to work for G3, G2, I am lost. Well, you got a point there. because, and again, they're in my area, naval stuff in my area, but I understand the basics of, at least on that part. I was in the MI, in the army, so my area is completely on a different level. But what is important to understand is logistically, we are not in a better position to get involved in something like that. Why? Because Chinese have an advantage, the water, of course, and let alone what they developed as far as the naval assets. He won't even allow the US to get closer. It'll be destroyed before they get closer. So you're absolutely correct. I mean, yeah, it is confusing as to what the US is doing. And this is why I am leaning more towards saying it won't be us in front line. It will be the likes of Japan, the likes of Australia, the likes of South Korea, the likes of Philippines, India, and so forth. That's the way I see it. So thank you very much for your super sticker, Rafael. Truly appreciate you. All right, let me see next question here. Johannes Dharma, good to see you. Can Filipinos say no to the US? What will happen to them if they say no? The short answer is no, they can't say no right now. But they can't say no because they have a weak leadership. Now I'm going to revert the question to you, or to all of you for that matter. How do you think, if Duterte was in power today, will he be able to say no to the US? Yeah, it's the leadership that is so weak in Philippines. And again, even though you and I know it is the military behind the scenes that controls the not the foreign policy, but the decisions. President there is just a figurehead. Now, it was slightly different during Duterte's time, because Duterte said to the US directly, well, you want me to fight the Chinese as suicide? Sort of made it clear, at least. This guy, Marcos, is unable to even take stand. And double standard doesn't work in a foreign policy. So that's what I see the challenge for. This is the reason why they won't be able to say no. And if they do say no, the US will most likely create some other tensions for the Philippines. And I don't know what type, but they will create some other tensions. There is no doubt. They have tools. They do control. They, meaning government here in Washington, they'll have other. Of course, the assets of the Marcos family will be locked in for forever. So that's the way I see it. So, question from Patrick, real estate. Good to see you. What do you think of the new tariff that will be imposed on Chinese EVs next week? Yeah. It's a bad idea, and this is one thing I intend to address with my guest next week. She will be in a better position to truly provide the big picture. All I can tell you, at least from my understanding, is this tariffs has nothing to do with us here. It has to do with preventing the Chinese goods from preventing the Americans from having cheap access to cheap Chinese products. I remember this vividly with Huawei, with the phone. When Huawei came up with the phone back then, at that time, the Apple was about $500, excuse me, $500. The same product produced by Huawei was about $128. What did Apple do? They convinced the government to put a block on the access to the Chinese product in the US. It wasn't about spying. It wasn't about, no. It was about preventing the Americans from having access to a cheap Chinese product that was as good as Apple. Same thing I see here. And I intend to ask that question for my next guest next week. So just remember to join me next week and put the question there. Farhad, question. Will the war between the US and Iran be avoidable? Yes, it is. And the US will never fight Iran. I tell you this. or Israel for that matter. They can't. We can't. We can't for a reason is that we don't know what Iran has. What we saw with Iran retaliating against Israel was nothing but an icing on the cake. And Iran at that time used the minimum of what it has as far as weapons. Why? Because Iran didn't want to show what it has. I mean, think about it. Iran has a hypersonic. Just think about it. It will be no war. The US, if we were planning a war with Iran, we would have done it way back. Like I always said, Iran is no Iraq. We know that for fact. Israeli knows this for fact. This is why there will never be an attack on Iran. At least, maybe not in my life, at least for now. I am convinced about it for now. It will be suicide if we do. Because every missile Iran has, especially with the medium long, are within reach to every installation of the US in the region. That's the way I see it. Abby, good to see you. If the US leaves South Korea, will they join their family in North Korea? I do not know. I do not know about this. I do know that there were some talks about this back then. But now with what the US is doing, this is again, North Korea is another country that we can attack because we know what the response is going to be. And North Koreans, if they say we will fire, that means they will fire. They don't bluff. So I don't know. But again, the regime in South Korea is so weak. We won't let it happen. We won't want them to reunify. And we will create tensions for them, for South Koreans. It's sad that our country conducts itself in this manner. Enough of this. I mean, it's about time for peace. Really, it's about time for peace around the world. Live and let live. Live and let live. So, guys, I appreciate you being here. In case it's unlikely I will do a live stream tomorrow. I don't know yet, but in case I don't, I wish you a safe weekend. Enjoy it, relaxed, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Okay. As always, remember, geopolitics impact your daily life in more ways than one. Until next time, guys. Bye-bye.